Hey guys, welcome back to AE Test Plus for day 2 of the tutorial on elemental combat. Today we'll be taking a look at the effect on how to do a fireball. I'll go through the creation of the fireball and then compositing it into a scene. I actually like this effect a lot, so I hope you guys will too. Alright, let's get to it! Okay, so first off you'll see that I've got my footage here, but I'm not going to drag it into a new composition because it's 60 frames per second and I want our composition to be 20 frames per second. So let's go ahead and make this 1280 by 720. And let's put it, about 11 seconds or so. And now we can drag our footage into it. So first off, let's get it to about right. Well, first off, we'll duplicate it. And then let's go just before I throw it, so at about right here or so. I will hit Alt right bracket, or you can, just drag it if you want from the end. And then I'll drag the other side from the other one to there. So now we have two separate videos, but, on screen it looks the exact same. So from right here, we'll right click on the bottom footage and go to time stretch. And because I filmed it at 60 frames per second, and this is a 24 frame per second composition, I could stretch it out to 2.5 times its original length. Because if you divide 60 by 24, you get 2.5. So let's put 250%, and it'll stretch outwards. What makes this cool is that you have real time here, and then as soon as it hits right here, it goes into what is essentially a sort of slow motion. It's not super slow, but it's slower than real time. 2.5 times slower. Alright, and now that we've got this, we want to stabilize this footage. It's still a little shaky even though I slowed it down. So let's go ahead to stabilize motion, and let's see if we could fit this somewhere, find a decent spot to stabilize. Maybe, I don't know, right here? Let's choose there. Why not? And then we'll go ahead and analyze forward. And it seemed to stick alright. Cool. Edit target. Yup. Alright, so apply. Apply to X and Y, yes. Okay. So now you'll see right away, it's pretty stable, but we've got this issue of, these black boxes flying everywhere. We can go ahead and, if we close out this and hit P on the keyboard, we can bring up the position, and let's keyframe it right here at the beginning so that, it matches up nicely with this. And we'll just kind of go through and all the big parts, just stick it back to normal, right here. Just drag it back to the original. I know this kind of undoes the stabilizing that you just did, but the stabilizing helped to take out all the extreme extreme shakiness out of it. And this is just to, save the majority of your footage if you can. So we'll go through and just kind of restore position on some of this. The magnitude and how much is up to you. But that's generally, that's pretty good. A couple spots here that, for the most part, this is good enough. Quite a bit right there. Because now what we're going to do is we're going to go over to our Effects and Presets panel and type in Motion Tile. And this will fill in the corners. If I can drag it. I apologize firsthand if there's stuff like this. My mouse is dying on me, so it doesn't click and drag things like I would want it to. Anyway, back to the point. I will fix that soon. So for Motion Tile, we're going to mirror the edges and then extend the height and then extend the width. That's probably overkill, but say 130 and 130. And now, as you can see, the edges are filled in. If you do look closely on some of them, you'll see, like right here, artifacts from this, but especially if we add in a aspect ratio at the end, a lot of that will be disguised. It'll just be the sides. But for the most part, your eyes are going to be diverted to where the fireball is. You're not going to notice it. Okay, now that we've got all that, we can go ahead and let's trim this up. Let's go ahead and name this project. Let's call it source footage. And we'll drag the source footage into a new composition. And let's call this final composite. Alrighty. Now we need to track footage. Let's go from about right here. And with this shot, I've remade this effect a couple times, so with this shot, I found that the best place to track this footage is, you know, right here on my crotch. Yay. Don't know why that didn't follow it. Hey, come on, mouse. Really, mouse? Okay. Alright, so let's go over and just track in position. We'll hit Analyze Forward. Oh, that's not what we wanted. Oh well. Right there. Perhaps over a little bit, and then Analyze Forward. See if it jumps around. A little shaky, right? Alrighty. And we'll apply this to a new null object. So we'll go to Layer, New, and down to Null Object. We'll just call this Tracker. So edit target, and we want this to go to the tracker, and then go to Apply X and Y. Indeed. Cool. Let's see, let's go to this first frame here, and I like putting it there just so, you know, I know where it starts. This is where the tracking begins. And la 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 la, yes, it's tracked there. So I'm gonna unhide it so I don't feel any more uncomfortable by you guys all staring there. But no big deal. The point of this is that we're going to move it, but it'll just move in, you know, correlation to here. So let's go ahead and start by putting together the fire. So I'm going to make this, let's put this, we want the width not too wide. Let's put this at, I don't know, 600 by 500? Oh, that's probably too wide then. 400 maybe? 600. It doesn't really matter in the end, but that's a little wide. It doesn't matter. I've made a folder here of all the fire that I plan on using. This is from Action Essentials, which is from videocopilot.net. A great website with tutorials. If you're watching this tutorial, there's a very good chance you've heard of it. But I can't not recommend this product out of any other product enough, especially if you're making action movies, and the fact that basically the rest of the tutorials of this week are following this thing, so get it. But from the pack, I've got Big Fire 03. That's, you know, just a big burning fire. I don't really know what they're burning. I think an upside down car. And just a couple torches that we'll use to kind of make the outline of the fireball itself. So first off, well, let's go to our comp. Let's label this fireball. So we are creative. And, well, first off, let's go ahead and drag out our big fire. Okay, so we could make our comp a little larger. Let's put this 600 by 700. Right, so right away, we'll see that this is, you know, slightly big, but that's all right. Just kind of put it in the center. And we'll go over here and go Optics, Compensation. Let's drag this, if my mouse will grab it, onto the footage. And this is essentially a plugin for, or an effect for, correcting the amount of distortion you get from wide-angle lenses. But if you use it here, you'll notice that it just kind of makes the thing round. which is kind of cool. And you'll notice there's a little bit of a gap up here. So let's see if we can make this a little bit more extreme, more rounded. And then we'll go down to our fire itself and duplicate the fire. And since it seems that the center point is right in the middle of the fire itself, we don't have to worry about moving that. The anchor point, I should say. Hold down W to bring up the rotation tool, and then just drag the top one until it's opposite. And I'll show you what this looks like. Kind of looks like an orb. I think it does, and I think it looks pretty cool. I think maybe this top piece can be dragged down a little. Okay. But for now, we've got the basics of our fireball. But we need to make the edges more, concrete. So let's go ahead and make a new solid by hitting Control Y, or going up to Layer, New, Solid. And let's go ahead and just sample this fire. We just want like an orangish color, something like that. Go ahead and make comp size and turn it off. Make sure you're selecting it, and then go to the rectangle tool and hold down. Hold it down. There we go. Again, apologies for my mouse. I'll delete this other mask. Go to where the center is and Control Alt Shift. Just make a circle. Alright. Hit V to go back to your point here. We can just move the solid. Nope, not that. We want to move the solid. And let's duplicate this mask here and hit subtract. And on the second one, let's go ahead and bring in the expansion a little bit and then feather it out. So if you solo it, it'll look a little like that. This will help to just kind of make the fireball more circular, so you can see some edges, and you can go ahead and duplicate this to make it stronger if you want. Maybe take this bottom one and fade it out a little bit more. But remember, the more you do that, the more you take detail away from the blacks in here. Alright, we've got that now. We can go ahead and add the torches. Torch Turbulent 2. You can probably scale it down a little bit. Hold down Shift to scale it evenly. I like actually having a little bit wider. Squish down. Let's put this up top. And you can see the beginnings of our effect. And then we'll take Torch Turbulent 3. Same spot. Maybe scale that down as well. And crush it. But we also want to rotate it, so hold down the W key to bring up the rotation. And then flip it 180 degrees. Hold down Shift to get it even. And then bring it down here to the bottom. Actually, I want it a little larger than that. Or I'll just do it by hand. Sweet. So now we've got that. This bottom here is looking a little bit too orange for me, but we could change that in a bit. So let's go back to our final composite. We can go ahead and close out of our source footage. And let's go up to our fireball and drag it onto our comp. And there we go, bam. And we hit, bring up the transform. Come on. Bring it up to add. It's essentially what it will look like. Alright, so let's bring the scale down a little. So about that big. And parent it to the tracker. So now, if we go and actually look at our footage, it's tracked into place. for the most part. It moves when the footage jerks around, but we still need to kind of position it ourselves. So we'll go to the fireball, bring up P on the keyboard, and for the first frame, go ahead and hit keyframe and move it into place. Get about center here. Just go along and basically put it where you want to. There are ways to do it without this way, but I like a nice hybrid between, keyframing and tracking. It makes it easier on both of them, because that way you don't have to stretch yourself out about finding the perfect track spot. Then you don't have to, work yourself to death by keyframing every single spot for it to go. Alright, so for the most part, that looks like what we want. Okay, now what we'll do for the entrance for the flame to come out, we're going to take the liquefy tool. So let's go over here to the effects and presets and go to liquefy. You may recognize this from Video Copilot's demon face tutorial. Same thing, but we're going to do it on making this entrance. So let's get this where we want. If you hold down Control and then click and drag, you can make this larger. So let's go ahead and select the warp that makes it twist. And let's go to the options and make the brush pressure up to like about 100%. That way you don't have to wait forever. And just hit it in the middle. It's important not to move it. Let's go ahead and make it a little smaller now. Because if you move it all over the place, you get weird stuff. Control Z to undo all that. Okay, Control Shift Z to redo it. Alright, and the next effect is the shrink one. Let's go ahead and shrink it a little like that. And grow it out more. And shrink it. Probably do it good with more twisted. Oh, see, that's what I meant. So now you'll see that if we go to the distortion percentage, it'll flare outwards. And no need to really worry about. Okay, so now we will keyframe the distortion percentage from 0% here at the beginning. Bring up U and drag this over to where you want it to be 0%. Say about right here, so. And back at the beginning, let's put this back up to 100%. Not 200%, just 100. So now you'll see it just kind of flares into existence. And this is one of those things that you could edit yourself, change what you want, perhaps make it wavy. Or not. Up to you. And to complement that, we'll also change the scale. So bring up the scale, and you see it's already at, we'll put this at an even 60%. Go ahead and keyframe that. Hit U, bring up everything. 60 over to, say, about right here. And then we'll just put this down to 0. So at the beginning, there's actually nothing there, and then it'll flare out. So now we've got the makings of bringing a fireball to life. I think that's pretty cool. It doesn't look good yet, but it's pretty cool. Alright. Because now we got to, change all the lighting. So right now, you can't have fire with no light. One thing we can do is, bring up a new adjustment layer and kind of just cut around your actor. Let's go ahead and add a curves to the adjustment layer, and let's first blow it out to see what we are looking at. bring up mask properties, and we could feather this out a lot. Maybe bringing it a little. Okay, now we can reset the curves. And with the fire, let's go ahead and push it out. It's going to be brighter. Don't want to punch it out. Go down to the blue. Just drop that a little. Down to the green. Drop that a little. Go to the red. Okay, something along the lines of that. Put that underneath the fireball if my mouse will stop double-clicking everything. And there we go. Some lighting, it's not. Oh, right. First, we want go back to where you drew the mask and parent it to the tracker as well. And you're probably going to end up having to change the mask path itself, or you could just keyframe the position of the mask itself again. Hit P. Go down. This actually holds pretty nicely, but it gets grossly wrong size there for a bit. And it's not the right color right now, but I have a trick that will make this kind of unneeded. I want to first keyframe the opacity, obviously. Hit T on the keyboard to bring up opacity, keyframe this, go to the beginning, and then take this to 0. So it comes out with the fireball itself. Alright, here's the cool part. We're going to take the fireball and duplicate it. And then we're going to go to the size and make it huge. And if you want to move it at all, like, you can't just move it. You'll move only the one keyframe. Say it's in the wrong spot. I want this to be more up here. If you hit P on the keyboard and select all of your keyframes, make sure you're already on a keyframe itself. I'm just going to go to this one, and now I'm going to move it, because then it moves all your keyframes at once. Let's go ahead and remove this exterior fire by drawing an ellipse. Remember, from the center, Control-Shift. Something along the lines of that. Okay. Let's go to the mask. Let's bring that in a bit. You can feather it. There you go. Alright. But wait, there's a giant fireball in your scene now. That's stupid. Yes, I would agree with you. Let's bring the fast blur. Kind of like how I did with the electricity. Let's ramp that up like crazy. And look at that. All of a sudden your scene is bright now. It is a little too bright, actually. Opacity and bring that down a little. Oh, and take off the liquefy effect. And you could just animate the about right here. Opacity 100%. Let's put the what does this look good? How about that? 75% sounds good. Let's go to the front. 0. So got natural lighting out of this now. By natural, I mean not particularly. But it is lighting that flickers at the same moments that your fire flickers. This actually isn't looking too bad. A little off time, maybe. Something along the lines of that. And we don't want it too blown out. So one thing that you can do is actually duplicate. Let's go ahead and put this as a fire light. Name that. That'll be important. You don't want to mix these up at all. Duplicate the original fireball, and then from this top one, go to, actually no, put the one fireball above the firelight, and then on the firelight itself, under the track mat option, go to alpha inverted mat. So right away, if we solo this, you'll see that, it's essentially the fire without the original fireball itself, and because we duplicated it, we have fire there. That's if the lighting itself is just blowing out the fire, making you lose all the detail. That's just one way to kind of insert some detail back in and still adding some brightness back into it. Let's see if we didn't do that. See, you lose all the detail. It just looks like a bright yellow blob. So let's go back to alpha inverted mat, and you get some of the detail back. From a distance, you can tell that this is, like a glowing fire orb. Just a handy trick to make it bright without overblowing the details. Okay, now one last trick that I like to add to make it, more spruced up is add some optical flares, like I did in the last one. This one, obviously you don't need it. As you can see right here, this is basically the final effect. I like adding optical flares because I think it just looks cool and adds a little something something, if you know what I mean. Oh, I forgot to add an adjustment layer, or Control Y to bring up a solid. Make a black solid. It doesn't particularly matter, but habit is a habit. Drop that on there, over original, and then go to add. So now we have our little optical flare. Let's go ahead and move the center position out a little bit. So under options, let's go to preset browser, see what's under motion graphics. Something that looks cool. How about, could do golden sun. I like some rays in it. Vertical limit streak rows. Oh, that's kind of cool. Yeah, let's try that one. I don't think I made this in the original video, but I think that looks pretty cool. And of course, we're obviously going to need to keyframe the position of this. So let's just go ahead and do that. Let's actually turn it off. It's easier to keyframe when you're able to see what you're keyframing. So position, and go ahead, and right here we'll start right there, and then we'll have to go forward and backwards. But hit U on the keyboard so we can see our keyframes, and just go along. When it moves a lot, just move it where you feel necessary. This is your work of art, your decisions, and for the most part that just kind of stays right there at the end. And even if there's not too much movement, it helps to add a keyframe. That way, when there is movement, you don't have it, moving over that whole time frame. You only move it when it needs to move. Here's kind of a critical part, because you got to find the exact center. Alrighty, so also we will animate, let's put the brightness down to like say 70, and then we're going to animate the scale. So hit U on the keyboard again to bring up everything, and right about where it's maximum, right here or so, we'll put our keyframe there. And then if you just go back to right before it starts, put the scale to 0. That way, when we turn it on, I'll show you here in a moment, see the flares themselves get larger. And then continue on. Pretty nifty. I like it. Let's move the center point down here. Like I said, center point's supposed to be, dead center, but if I had this dead center, it'd just be like too much brightness, and I want to see some of the flares. So you can get away with it. Okay, I guess I'll add one last thing in here, something to, make it a little cooler. Go back to the source footage. This is something I like to do. Just kind of spice it up, add some energy. This here, we're going to animate its size. So let's go ahead and go to scale and put this up to like 150%. And, well, first off, let's keyframe this at 100% right here. And hold on Shift and P, and then the position right there. And go back to as we start right about here or so. Put this at 150% and just kind of move it into place. And one more thing is I like to put a sharpen filter on, so Control Alt Y to bring up an adjustment layer. Go to sharpen from the effects and presets. Let's put this at, I don't know, 10. Why not? A little sharp, but I like it on the edge. So back to our final composite. You'll see it just kind of zooms out. It's not cool like that. You gotta actually add the motion blur in. So let's go back to our source footage, and over here we'll just activate, motion blur. So now should at least, yep, sweet. Got some blur happening as it zooms out, as you would. And I've also included some audio in the project file. I'm not going to tell you exactly how to go through compositing this, but one is just like an energy wave that you could, keyframe the volume of it to make it, sound like something's coming out of existence. I mean, you pretty much, and the other two are just kind of sitting there, not really doing anything. So you can pretty much tell exactly how to do it just by watching the preview. And one last thing, Control Alt Y, I like to put in another video copilot thing, which is just aspect ratio. Put that at about 2 or so. Just make it cinematic, or if it's getting overused, don't do it because it might be, overused. But I like it. That's my opinion. Of course, another way you can do this is just by, as I've said before, making a new solid, Control Y, and then double-clicking on the rectangle, go to expansion, no, 0. Let's double-click on this, and we'll just stretch it out sideways. Hold down Control Alt, just drag it out wide, and then under, well, first we want it to be subtract, and then just kind of bring in the expansion. Essentially the same thing. Cool. Alright, well, I hope you enjoyed this. This was another tutorial from Ren Weichman on aetutsplus.com. Come back again for the next 2 days of effects, where I'll go over the very next shot in the sequence, which is the flamethrower, which I think I actually like quite a bit better than this one, just because it has so much, epicness in it. And then the one after that, which is just tunneling through the ground, which isn't cool as much as it is just kind of useful. So, I'll see you then. Have a good day. Later.